is that? We'll begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
Republic,
stands one nation,
one
under God,
nation,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and justice for all.
Okay. At this point, there are no adjustments to the agenda, but I would like to point out an error. If you turn to your second page, item 10.5, special education reserve, where it indicates that there's a transfer and authorization to expend $25,000 from available fund balances. That figure is actually $40,000 instead of 25, $40,000. So if you could make that adjustment on your agenda. Okay. With that, could I have a motion for an approval of the minutes of our February 8th, 2022 meeting?
Chaircast one.
Chaircast one. Any discussion? All those in favor? Now is the portion of public comment. Is there any public comment? Do we have anybody on Zoom, Sean, besides the board?
Nobody that's sending any messages to me now.
With that, we'll move on then to item number 6, which is presentations, and there are none this evening. So with that, we'll move on to number 7, chair comments, superintendent, principal, and student rep. I have just a couple of things I'd like to mention. First of all, today is our esteemed superintendent's birthday. Happy birthday, Superintendent. We won't sing to you, but she's got wonderful cards from students all day long. So that's been a special treat for the day, for sure. I'd also like to discuss our upcoming April school board meeting. Typically, it would be scheduled on the second Tuesday, which is April the 12th. However, the superintendent is going to be out of the country on April the 12th. And by law, we're not allowed to have a school board meeting without the superintendent. So I'm wondering how many of you would be willing to move that meeting to the first Tuesday of the month, which is April. Any comments or discussions? Kathy?
No, it's just fine with me.
That's that. Any other comments or discussion?
Somebody coughed when you said the date, Mary.
The date would be then April the 5th instead of April the 12th. We looked at
Okay.
We looked at the third Tuesday of the month, but that of course falls during April vacation.
So April 5th, 6 o'clock. Are we gonna move finance and everything else as well?
Excuse me?
Are we gonna move?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm in the airport, so I have to wear a mask. So, the only problem is, I guess that's a question for Deb, is facilities. You won't have had the meeting before the meeting.
We can probably pass on one for April and just move it into May.
Okay. Or, yeah, you just won't report until after. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. I just wanted to mention it. So, yeah, that's fine. We could do, why don't we move finance to 5 o'clock on the 1st as well?
Finance 5 o'clock.
Or the 5th.
Or on the 6th.
On the 5th. Yeah,
Okay.
5 o'clock on the 5th. So we'll meet 5 o'clock on the 5th. Correct.
So can I have a motion to move the April meeting to April the 5th? And then have a vote so I can see if we have a quorum. Okay, Kathy moved, Johanna second. All those in favor? Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great, thank you very much. The only other couple of things real quickly I'd like to mention, in your packet that you received tonight, although I talked about this at our last meeting, is this absolutely wonderful library newsletter called Library Notes that Abby Thompson puts together. Oops. So, thank you. And I really wish you would take the time to look it through. It's so professionally done. She's really a wonderful asset to our building. And we appreciate all the extra things that she does. Very nice touch. And the only other thing is just to mention to you that we're probably going to try to start up teacher negotiations in April. And if any of you are interested in serving on that committee, just shoot me an email and let me know what you're interested in participating, and I would welcome that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent. Birthday girl.
Thank you. So first thing I'd like to bring attention to is the uprising, I guess you could say, of our outdoor classroom. It is taking shape. I was going to bring you all out tonight, but you wouldn't be able to see it at this point in time. So Sean has put together some photos for you to see. I'll show you those.
Yeah, let
See
me
where we're at.
share my screen here. Can everyone see my screen? So I put together a website. It's actually linked to the main website under the home dropdown under outdoor classroom.
Okay.
And it showcases the outdoor classroom, the process a little bit, and gives you a little bit of information as to how it came together. I think the photos, Tim Straub took a lot of them. He was pretty enthusiastic because he just purchased a new iPhone. So he took a lot of photos. I think he did a great job, and I put them on the website. It kind of shows the timeline of the process pretty well. So it was put together by Nels Christensen, who is Nini's son, and he was in the class of 2008. And it was funded by some through the ESSER funding, or mainly through the ESSER funding, and then also through a donation from the class of 2020 and through a donation from Skowhegan Savings Bank. So we're really thankful for that. So Tim did a good job showcasing the cuts that Nels had to make. It's a pretty towering structure out there. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. So I also have a highlight video here too. I probably won't play it tonight because over Zoom it'd probably be a little laggy. There's Mr. L. He seems to be the thumbnail of every video for all our apps, but it's a pretty awesome structure, and we will be trying to supplement it with outdoor Wi-Fi coverage too coming up in the future. So still a work in progress, but if you are in the area, you should certainly check it out. It's pretty cool.
Thank you, Sean. And I've said this before, but I just want to reiterate that there's a lot of work that's been put into planning this and making this happen. And again, I'd like to thank Sonia Johnson, Nini Christensen, Nels Christensen, Jeff LaRochelle, Sheila Raymond, and all. If I'm leaving anybody out, thank you, because I know there was a lot of people that were involved in this. Yeah, pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting to see all of this planning sort of come to fruition. Just so you know, we have the capacity to apply for a Title I summer allocation grant for summer programming. Katie Willis and myself did that last week, and we'll see if there's any funding that comes our way. If there is, I will let you know. If we can, we always try to apply for any title grants that come our way. There have been, as you know, some changes to our sort of COVID protocols in our building. Lindsay couldn't be here with us tonight, but these are her words that I'm reading. This is her report out on the changes. At this time, based on community COVID status and updated guidelines we received, We return to masking optional for all students and staff and visitors. We are no longer conducting pool testing. The numbers for our pool testing are way down because of the number of students that have had COVID and had to be removed from the pools. Rapid testing is still available for those who warrant it. Currently waiting for an updated SOP from the main DOE and CDC to be released, with guidance expected to be this week. Protocols will be adjusted accordingly if needed. She ends by saying it was so nice to see so many smiles in the building this week. The change in the SOP from the main DOE actually just came out at about 4:30 this afternoon, so we haven't had a chance to review that. But if there are any changes that impact us, we'll report out and let you know that. And Winter Kids update. I think I sent you all an email stating that we came in 4th place.
Yep.
And were awarded $2,500. The committee that sort of worked with Winter Kids is still working on how they're gonna spend those funds. I'll let you all know once they have a plan on what they're gonna do, but it will go towards, outdoor learning or nutrition or something healthy. And again, thank you very much for coming and saving the day. And that's it. That's all I got right now.
I will turn it over then to Seth.
I'll start with some curriculum news. So I met with the board curriculum committee last week, and we talked about kind of like the board role in approving curriculum and looking at programs. So some of the work that came up, we've already started on, is at the high school level, we're looking at the program of studies, and in policy, it says the board should be approving program of studies. I don't think we've had the board review that in a while, so we're going to start doing is every year in the spring, bring the program of studies to the board, because there's edits that are made, people modify their class descriptions. So right now, high school team is working on that, so we should, maybe in May. Yeah, definitely May, not next month, but May we'll have that for the board to look at. We'll get it to you ahead of time so you can review it. So we're working on that. We talked about getting more on the website in terms of curriculum, and I'm going to work with Sean on linking, because we use the main learning results as our standards. So getting some links in there so parents can find that information on the state site, and then start working over the next year or so on getting like our priority standards that we use here, like the non-negotiables for each level. Because say you look at English language arts, there might be 150 standards in there, weeding out what are our priorities. So we talked a lot about steps to be more transparent in a place where parents can go find that information if they choose, and try to have it in language at some point that everyone can understand. Because a lot of times you read that as a teacher, you read it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But a parent that has no background in education wouldn't, understand it all. So it was a really good meeting. We talked about as far as like right now the K-5 is looking at some reading programs. What should happen once we pick one that comes to the board to be discussed and to be approved. So just a lot about the board role. I think it was a good meeting. It gave us some focus. And from the minutes, I haven't done this yet. We had some things that need to get done. Hopefully the next meeting I'll have a timeline to shoot for. Some of this. So it was a good meeting. March 18th, we have a teacher workshop. We're still working on planning that. It kind of keeps morphing a little bit. We're basing it a lot on teacher needs right now. K-5 may need some more time. Today was our last 12 o'clock release. And the teams have done a lot of work. I've sat in with a lot of the levels. Like today I was with high school, and they're still working on the project at the high school level. K-5 has been doing a lot of work on reading and the reading program. So we may use more time on March 18th to kind of wrap up the work that was started by the releases. But I just want to thank the board again. Those 12 o'clock releases, a lot of good stuff got done. And in the morning, there is something offered that teachers can take part in through the Western Maine Educators Consortium. They have a keynote speaker for the morning about leadership, not just like admin leadership, but leading from within the classroom. So some teachers may take part in that. And right now we're trying to pull off, so today was supposed to be the last regular Ski Tuesday. It was on Windhold. I was at the mountain at 9:30 to meet with them about next Tuesday, and it was like a whiteout blizzard up there. It was crazy. So they held on. That's why it was so late, the announcement. We had already like sent the skis up. They were, like they didn't want to call it. They're like, I think we can spin the list. So that got canceled, but for next Tuesday, we're looking at a whole fun day for the kids. We're all gonna go K through 12. I think we're gonna pull it off. It's really short window to plan it. But, you know, the kids that are in the ski program will be with their groups. Other kids that can ski, it's not gonna be a learn how to ski day, but other kids that can ski in 6 through 12 will be able to go skiing. We're gonna have cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, snow sculpture, photo booths, Jenga, giant Jenga set, all sorts of activities going on. So it'll be a fun day at the mountain. They're really excited to partner with us. Ranging Health and Wellness has already bought a bunch of gifts and prizes. The Mountain and Health and Wellness are paying for lunch for the kids up there. We're gonna have a pizza lunch, French fries, snacks and drinks. So that is kind of my focus right now. That's a lot of planning, you know, to pull these days off. So yeah, that's kind of what I have.
So Seth, is that gonna be an all day, and then what time are you going up to the mountain?
We'll get on buses around 8:30, get up there around 9. Activities until 12, lunch, and then we're gonna have a regular dismissal here at school. So we'll leave the mountain before 1 to get back.
The kids will be skiing too, as well as the.
Yeah, the
activities?
kids that are in the Tuesday program will be skiing. Other than that, it's only gonna be kids that know, like, can ski, whether it's with their parents if they're young or kind of on their own in middle school, because last year, this isn't a great day to learn how to ski. You know, we'll have other stuff going on.
Yeah.
The program was kind of that learn to ski. Yeah.
All right, terrific. Thanks so much. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll turn it over to the student rep. Ida.
Since the last meeting, winter sports finished. The girls ski team got third in the Class B state championship, and we had 2 boys compete. You need 4 for a team, but they did really good. The girls basketball team made it to the second game at the Civic Center, and the boys made it to the first. And the girls got the I think it was Southern Maine, not the Southern Maine Sportsmanship
Yep.
Award. Spring sports, it looks like we're gonna have a softball team. There's not enough for a baseball team. But yeah, so we should have a high school softball team. And then the math team on the 17th goes to University of Maine at Farmington for the math team championship. So we've been doing meets at school and submitting them virtually, but now we're going to the final one at UMF on Sunday. So that should be fun.
Any other comments? With that, we'll move on to committee reports. I'll begin with policy. Kathy.
February 28th. State NSMA has sent out a policy report that of all the policies that they updated in 2021, and there were quite a few that were several. There were several that needed word changes, and we'll be doing that later. We'll be going through that, and really, this our next meeting. Well, now that you changed the board meeting,
Board
I'm
meeting.
gonna have to go look and see how we can
Okay,
change the policy meeting to coincide with that, so I don't know that, it'll probably be a week earlier, so.
right. So was it originally scheduled for the last weekend in
No, it was-
March, or had
no,
we
it was-
moved it into April because we actually had a Wednesday in April?
Yeah, it was supposed to be, I didn't write it down, I'm sorry, but it was not gonna be in March because we had the week in April, but now it might actually be in March.
Okay,
I'll have to look it up and I'll let everybody
and you
know.
let everybody know that we know. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kathy. The finance committee, Chris.
Yeah, so we did not meet today, but we have, sorry, I'm sorry. But we've, the budget's done as it's been done since last month. And we'll be meeting at 1 o'clock at 5 o'clock on the 1st. But everything seems to be tracking. All of us are getting via DocuSign copies of the payables and the payroll stuff. So we're signing all those that way. And I assume, knowing my committee members, everybody's giving it a good read over before they sign off. So we're getting this, we're seeing everything and it's working remotely quite well. So now that we were able to get the budget done early, I think that freed up a lot of time that we normally spent. And those who know me, I don't like to meet just to have a meeting. So I think we're in good shape.
All right, thank you, Chris.
That's it.
Your comments. Okay, the facilities committee, Deb,
Hello, can you hear me?
you can.
All right. Well, we met last Thursday at 4 o'clock, and just a quick update on the middle school science lab. Invitations to bid have gone out, and I've seen that on not only on the school website, I saw it on the Facebook page, and of course it's in the documents that we received, so that's great. Couple of things are going to happen when there's a smart board projector that's going to be moved, and that can be done during the summer. Sean kind of filled us in on how all that's going to work. You've already heard about the outdoor classrooms. That's very exciting, and the video is fantastic. So if you haven't watched it yet, please put that on your list of things to do. Huge thank you to Jeff and to Tony and to Wendy for their diligent efforts in cleaning out the storage room. There were records in there that date back, oh gosh, as long as the building's been around. So thank you to them for cleaning that all out. The documents that needed to be shredded have been done, and that leaves more room for storage. Still waiting on a quote for some sort of carpet replacement for the portable. It will most likely be an industrial strength, think hotel grade carpet. All of the old carpet, padding, everything will be taken out when it's time, but again, still waiting on a quote for that. We are also waiting on quotes for library shelving, and Abby can talk more about that if need be, but she's familiar with the company, and we'll just wait to hear when we have more information. Sean also shared with us a quote about key cards. Siemens came to do a walkthrough and kind of talked about what it would take and what it would cost. And the original quote from the meeting when they came to present was one number. The quote that was given to Sean recently was over $32,000. And in my opinion, and I believe the opinion of others in the meeting, that's probably way out of our price range. So, and the system we have right now seems to be working. Jeff talked about how if people are no longer employed, how he can deactivate their codes, and there hasn't been a problem in the past. So probably no need for us to move forward with any other sort of key card at this time. There's a camera that's going to be moved from the gym to the hallway in the elementary wing when people can get to that. And Sean also talked about the outdoor Wi-Fi. Again, lots of people are applying for funds and grants, and it's on the list of things we hope to get. And Chris, I didn't know if you had any other information you wanted to share with the board about the solar panel presentation, and if there is, take it away.
Sure. So we are, he talked to us about I asked about the maintenance fees if we were to go in that direction. And he said those would be paid by the investor owner until that was done. And then it would go on to us once we bought it. But it was a very small fee, and I asked for a breakdown on it, on how it was calculated in those pieces. And then as to the roof stuff, he explained to me that it sits all on there on pads. It isn't a penetration. It's done with pads and counterweights. But he obviously recommended we have a thorough inspection of our roof before we went ahead and set something on there for those pieces. So once I can get it finalized, he was going to do a revised performer on that. So I'll get that back. As everybody knows, if you've looked at your own personal CMP bill, electricity has really shot through the roof, and both on delivery on the demand side, that went up this month along with the kilowatt hour. So, and for those who aren't familiar, most of our fuel with the not politicking at all, but just telling, with the corridor not going through with the hydropower, most of the grid is powered through natural gas and oil and other fossil fuels. So therefore, until the price of oil drops, which I think it hit almost $130 a barrel versus negative 8 months ago, we're not going to see a really an end in sight until the conflicts in Eastern Europe subside. So I think we should continue to explore it, gather the information, and see what the alternatives are for us. It's a huge tax advantage to an investor, not to us, but if we have a way to end up with a really good residual on it, it not alone with the cost savings, but long term, it could really be beneficial. I know quite a few businesses out there that have been moving in this direction, and it's pretty impressive what the savings are. So that's it.
Thank you, Chris. That's all I have, Mary and Georgia.
Okay, thank you, Deb, so much. The Communications Go One group. Chris, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, we're meeting on Thursday to go over hopefully some final pieces so we can get the policy over to the policy crew so that next month they can go through that. And hopefully we'll have something to finalize up at the April meeting. I feel like a lot of our pieces have been implemented and done, and the staff and administration have been very proactive. And I think we're moving in a really good direction with all that. We just kind of have to codify it and as well as spell it out so that it's easy to go forward and meets the compliance with the state.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate that. Okay, moving forward, the curriculum committee. Kathy.
Well, actually, Sean, Seth rather, sorry. Seth kind of summed up a lot of it up, but I can give you more specifics if you want. So what we decided was our goal was to make transparent priority standards by combining means and end game, such as have the benchmarks for each content area outlined and available on the website. So it is a general guidance to what is covered at each grade level. Make available reading lists for middle school and high school with a suggested list at the elementary level. Bring courses of study to board. Make syllabi available to board. Yearly course of studies on the website. New programs that come to the board with presentations. Seth will report on curriculum changes, if any, to the board. Sean gives board the ability, did you know this? The ability to check syllabi online. We want to encourage teachers to communicate with parents and encourage parents to bring questions and misunderstandings, because there seems to be quite a bit of that going on, to teachers first. Suggested we use Seth's weekly video, I don't know if you this, to help achieve some of these goals. Anyway, these are just more specifics. And like Seth said, what we want to do is we want to meet and create some sort of progression of these things and exactly how they might be carried out, and they'll be refined as we go along. But I think we had a wonderful meeting and a great start.
And I think that's a timeline, right, Seth, that you were referring to in
Yeah.
terms of.
Yeah,
the
try to
rollout
create some
that-
sort of
that
1 to 2
information.
year plan.
But having a lot more course level information available to folks online, both the board and also parents in the community.
Yeah.
All right, do we have, moving on then to item number 9, do we have any appointments, resignations, nominations, or transfers?
We do. To start, I have 2 resignations. Our first one was Tina Gussler, who is a special education ed tech. She gave a resignation with her last day being the end of February. We are very happy for her. She was offered a teaching position at a neighboring district. She's worked extremely hard for this, and just very proud of her. And thank you, Tina, for your service here. We also have our high school English teacher, Tim Stroud, is not officially retiring as of yet, but he will be leaving us at the end of the school year. Thank you, Tim, for making us laugh and your dedication to the profession. And I also have 2 retirements that I would like to announce. The first one is Doris Mitchell. She will be retiring at the end of the year. She's been with us for 35 years. Thank you for your many, many years of service. You've been a leader, mentor, friend, and mother figure to so many in this building. Secondly, I'd like to announce Robin George is also retiring. She's been with us for 28 years. Her passion for reading is inspiring. Her leadership and dedication to our students and staff has been admirable. With that said, we are so happy for all of you and can't wait to see what opportunities come your way and where life will take you next. One thing is for sure, you will be missed.
Thank you very much, Georgia. Okay, let's move on to the action items. We have a very long list, so please take a deep breath. But we're going to begin this portion of the meeting, Georgia, with your presentation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, but before I start this, I just want to sort of give you a little background on this particular sort of presentation. Back many years ago, there was a superintendent that was here, Sue Pratt, who gave a presentation to the board, and I thought it was, really well done, and I sort of wanted to bring something similar to you all. So I want to give credit where credit is due. Go. So our instructional areas included in this budget are career and educational development, ELA, health and phys ed, mathematics, world language, science and technology, social studies, visual and performing arts. Our goals for this budget are to maintain excellence in programming for students, to maintain high quality support services for students, to maintain some facilities, maintenance and upgrades as needed, align staffing needs with the needs of students to ensure safety and improve academic achievement, and to provide an environment conducive to learning. Some of the highlighted changes within the articles. In Article 1, regular instruction, this includes salary and benefit increases and gifted and talented programming. In the past, our gifted and talented programming was sort of hidden, not hidden, but it was coming out of our grant, our title grant, so you didn't really see it. We really want to expose the program, so we put the program in the budget so that you can see we have a solid program, and solid program it is. It's a wonderful program that Katie's bringing to our district. Article 2, special education instruction. That article is down, and it's down basically because of IEP needs. Special education is driven by the goals for each of our students. So whatever those goals state that they need, speech, OT, physical therapy, that's sort of what drives that article. Article 4, other article, that increase is really about repairs and maintenance to our baseball, softball, soccer fields. It's for supplies and equipment, uniforms, and I think the question came up at the last meeting about who was getting uniforms, so I'm going to let Jeff talk to that briefly.
The next one would be soccer.
Soccer for both.
Yeah, soccer for middle school first.
Middle school
What we do is we do it on a rotation. So we usually put the same amount of money in for uniforms, and then we rotate teams through. So that way, we're not like 1 year and 4 teams need uniforms, and then we go 3 or 4 years with, no purchasing of uniforms. So try to do like a team a year.
Thank you, Jeff.
Just a quick question. Jeff, how many years in that rotation cycle?
It's just about to start over again, so it's like 5.
5 years?
Yeah, it's like 5 years. You can go a little bit more on some of them. Like middle school basketball, they have actually reversible. So you purchase one uniform. Like soccer, middle school is easy because they just wear green.
Okay,
So it's one uniform. Varsity basketball is a home and away.
okay.
So you run into different expenses on soccer and varsity the same way, home and away uniform. Baseball, softball for both middle school and varsities are one uniform.
So in addition to that, the drama actually took a little bit of a hit this year. So I've asked that Erin put in what she needs for her budget for musicals and things like that this coming year, for travel, hotels, things that any of the clubs or the drama club may need. So that's where the increases are there. System administration, that's just increase in health insurance. And the same with system administration, salaries and benefits. Our transportation line is down a little bit, and that is reflective of the decrease in positions. We've cut a full-time bus driver out of the budget, and we've also cut a part-time custodial bus driver position. We've been advertising for that position for a couple of years now. Haven't had anybody apply for it. And we, at the current time, are able to run the 3 buses that we're running and do bus runs that we need. We have plenty of buses to do that. Article 9, facilities and maintenance, an increase of $1,100, almost $1,200. Again, this is an increase in grounds fees, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, which are sort of way up, but then the halftime custodial position sort of offsets that a little bit, so it's not quite so large. Workers' compensation rates have increased $13,205.08, and this is based on overall usage and time. Restaffing positions that were partially funded with ESSER II funds are now being locally funded. They are pre-K through 8 guidance counselor, 6 through 8 interventionist, a full-time substitute teacher, and a high school ed tech 3. So our technology coordinator position is being changed to a director of technology and communications, with a $20,000 increase in salary due to added responsibilities and added contracted days to do this work. We've had an increase to a few of our stipends. We are trying to sort of create some equity across the board for our athletics department. So we are adding stipends for our assistant varsity coaches, for soccer, baseball, and softball at $500 each. Also added a small increase for year service of a athletic director at $250, assistant athletic director at $100, and the athletic medical manager at $100. We also added in some stipends for the recycling coordinator for $750. We have someone in the building who updates our sign that's out by the road. And then our English as a second language coordinator, which by law we're required to have somebody who is certified in that. And so we have $1,000 stipend for that. Summer, winter grounds contracts are up $24,500. We had to put out a bid for those this year. We got one bid and it was up. So that was a little sort of out of our control. And again, I spoke about the bus driver positions, a bus driver position and a full-time bus driver custodian position were cut from the budget. There were no job losses for that. It's just so you know, there's nobody in the building that lost their job because we cut those positions. There was an adjustment that was made in the elementary high school principal lines. It now reflects a middle school, high school principal. Before it was a pre-K 5 principal, and instead of a K-8 principal. So it didn't impact the budget in any way. We just needed to make those corrections in the cost centers. So it's a true reflection of what our administration is. The pre-K through 5 grade span, they are looking to purchase or be trained in a new reading curriculum that incorporates phonics, which is very difficult to find a good program that offers both of those. Michelle Liberty, she's going to come and actually do a presentation. They are doing a book study right now on how to choose the best curriculum. And so that'll be interesting. They are loving this book. So hopefully they'll gain some real knowledge out of it and come back with a report out on where to go with this. So they have added in $21,000 into the budget for this. We have no idea how much a curriculum could cost. So it's this is a ballpark figure. The athletics, repairs and maintenance, I spoke a little bit about that already. This is just broken down here a little bit more as to what the increases are. Okay. The next page, this is just a visual to sort of show you, what our fixed costs are, our instruction, student support system administration, our maintenance and operations. They make up about 94% of our budget roughly. So there's very little wiggle room, with places to cut. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. Page. It's just an article breakdown over time, just to sort of show you the increase or decrease in each of the articles. As you can see, the Article 1, regular instruction, that is again reflective of salaries and benefit increases. Sheila, it was for teachers, it was 3.72. I'm sorry. And for support staff, it was 5%. Yeah. And then the next page just sort of breaks down the comparison and what the towns have to raise for funds. And if this will be, if you look on page 1 in your budget book, this speaks to the
George, I had a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
Could you go back one slide?
Yep.
Okay. Can I make a small suggestion for this presentation? And on this slide, 2022 and 2023 is a lighter color, and 2021 and 2022 is a darker color. Can you go to the next slide now? It's the opposite on that one. I would suggest that you swap the colors so that way they're consistent.
Okay. I didn't even notice that. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. No, it just caught my eye because I knew the hard numbers on the Rangeley Plantation. I'm like, wait a second, I know they went down and looked, but my eye thought from before that it was up.
I will do that. Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, so on the next page, again, if you go to page 1 in your budget book, this speaks to the increases and decreases. And they are based on the average number of pupils in each town. That's really the bottom line, but it breaks, Sheila's put in a nice chart that sort of breaks down. And this you can see on the pupil count, go to the next page. Sort of see the changes there. So what really stands out for me is that Rangeley Plantation is down. I don't know how you can have a half of the students. It's got a bookie. And then to end,
I had one comment back on the other. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna suggest, I apologize, I didn't notice it till now, is that I would suggest you do decimal point, like the 10th decimal point on all the numbers, and then line them up either right justified or somewhat in the middle of the column, so that way it's easy for people to follow the plus ones and minuses. So that, you know, all the 0.5s and, you know, do it as 14.0, 8.0, so that way it's really clear to people. Just the formatting, that's all. Good numbers.
I think I just took this is directly from the ED 279, so that's how they calculate it. Okay. Next page. So based on the ED 279 formula for year 2022, it states that that mill rate, they established a suggested mill rate of 7.1. Which is based on the average state valuation, which basically means for us that we can afford to pay a $7 million budget, $68,878.34, which is why we are a minimum receiver for state funding. The budget being presented to you is $5,212,960.96. And although our budget shows an overall increase of 3.96%, our increase to the towns on average is 1.397%. Once all subsidy has been applied, which is down 2.353% over last year. So just.
Georgette, question.
Go ahead.
The last time we looked at this at finance, it was 1.28. What's the delta difference? Why is it now 1.397?
I believe there was a slight change in tuition.
The tuition rates changed. They went down.
Okay,
Yeah, high school tuition.
I
rates
think
went
the
down.
elementary went slightly up, but the high school tuition rates went down, so that's reflective of that.
and if we get more students over the year, then that will help with that as well, right? If some more students come from other districts. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so that's the end of the presentation. If there are any questions about, I don't know how you want to proceed, Mary?
Well, we're gonna move forward then with these action items. Are there any questions for Georgia at this point? Get the opportunity.
I just wanted to make a final comment.
Sure.
I just wanted to say really good job, Georgia. I think this helps the community understand what's going on. It's a good breakdown. As you know, it was well received before when Ms. Pratt did it. So I applaud you for taking the time to do that and get it organized, because I really think it, USA Today versions the budget quite easily. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Nothing online. Nothing on Zoom.
Excuse me, nothing online?
Yeah, nothing on Zoom. Yeah.
So with that in mind, then I'm going to move to action item 10.1. And that is a motion to approve the 2022-23 RSU 78 budget for a total of $5,212,960.96. Johanna move a second. Karen.
Second,
any dis- All those in favor?
aye.
Okay, great.
Aye.
Item 10.2, adult education, to raise that portion of the budget by $13,996. Can I have a motion for that? So moved. Karen. Second. Johanna. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. School nutrition program, we need to raise $60,000. Could I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Kathy, moved by Kathy, seconded by Chris. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, what is,
Yeah, Kathy?
I don't understand. Why is this separate from the budget and what is the school nutrition program?
Would you like to speak to that, Sheila? I think it has to be a separate.
It has to be separate by state mandate, and it's your lunch program. It's to supplement basically your wages. The meals will be free again next year to all students. So.
Just to know what it, okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Kathy? Yeah. Okay, so it's by law. Okay. Any other questions?
How do the funds get raised?
It's already in the budget. It just has to
In
be
the
voted.
budget?
Yeah. It
It just has to be voted separately.
Statute requires separate article.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the capital reserve account. Transfer and authorize to expend $100,000 from available fund balances for unexpected or emergency maintenance or repairs to regional school unit facilities and equipment. May I have a motion? for that?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Chris,
Second,
second that. Okay. Any questions or discussion on the capital reserve account? Okay. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, we'll move on. The special education reserve, and here was where we made a correction. That's a transfer and authorization to expend $40,000 from available fund balances for unexpected emergency special ed expenses, not included in the operational budget. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Fred. Seconded, Chris. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Moving on. Student staff support reserve, transfer and authorize to expend $50,000 from available fund balances for unexpected emergency student or staff support expenses not included in the operational budget. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Johanna, second by Chris. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. We'll move on then to 10.7, open and close budget format. There was a little bit of confusion in last year's budget. And some board members understood that we had voted to have all of the articles that were presented in the 21-22 budget as open items. And it turned out that in fact, the reserve account was a closed item in the budget. And subsequent to that, we have talked with Drummond and Woodson. And they recommend that we leave our operation accounts as open items in the budget in case there's a need for adjustments or corrections, but that we leave our reserve accounts as closed items when we go to the community vote. So I need a motion for a discrimination between the operations account and reserves account in terms of whether they should be open or closed articles in the budget.
I so moved that.
Second, and what are you moving, Chris?
That we do the operation accounts is open, the rest is closed. We're properly funding the capital reserve this year rather than underfunding it. So I have no issue with it being closed.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Any questions or discussions about that? Okay, all those in favor?
I
Okay, it passes unanimously. Okay, we now need to consider the 22-23 school year calendar. Georgia.
There's not really any significant changes to this calendar. As it stands right now, it is in compliance with our foster tech calendar. There may be one additional day outside of the 5 dissimilar days, but if that is the case, if that plays out that way, we would just send our foster tech students on January 3rd, which we've designated as a workshop day, which is not a workshop day. And RTA approved the calendar yesterday.
May I have a motion to accept the 22-23 school year calendar as presented? Kathy, can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Joe, any questions or comments?
I have some comments.
Wes first, please.
Just a comment, I'm not a huge fan of the children going back to school for Memorial Day. I honestly believe, and especially in the resort community, that it screws everybody's last week in summer out.
Labor Day.
Yeah, Labor Day. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing discussion, Wes, with and I think the biggest discussion is around with our high school students who work that weekend. What we've said is that we would work with any any employers, any businesses in the building that have high school students if needed, if that impacted their business in any way, we would work with you. We just need to reach out to you. As far as the family situation goes, I understand that too. The problem though is if we wait until after Labor Day to start, it brings us almost to the end of June to end. So
Yeah.
there's a balance there with that.
Yeah, I know, I understand. So like we could pull it April 14th, we could pull December 22nd. It's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I have to say, Wes, I do agree with you. It's kind of unfortunate, like we all kind of get to take a breather out there beyond these walls, and it's kind of like, oh no, the kids are going back to school right now when we're still trying to recover from that. So if there were any considerations to be able to move it till after Labor Day, I know that it would be appreciated by a lot.
Okay. And we can certainly take that into consideration. It will also move graduation to the following week. So, yeah.
Even if we took those 2 days, we'd still have to move graduation to December.
Could you say that again, Seth? I didn't hear.
Even if we took 2 days out, we would still have to move graduation to the 17th, because if we did the 2 days, we'd have to be at 14. And we'd be pushed, we'd have to. Because if graduation's on the 10th, and you move this last student day to the 14th, that only gives you 2 snow days to play with, because if you have more than 5 student days after graduation, seniors have to make those days up. Happened a couple years ago, we had kids coming in on Saturday and then staying late. I don't know if parents remember, we had kids going on Tuesdays until like 2:30 to start making up hours, and it's a lot of work. So that's just something to consider too.
I apologize, Chris, I know you had a comment and I want to go to you next.
Okay, everybody knows where I sit on this. I think it's crazy to go back before Labor Day. I've fought this every year. Usually the excuse is we've got to make sure the calendar works with Foster's, which any of those high school students can go whenever they want to go back. They can go to those. There's no penalty for that. We can still run the bus service. I get the whole thing about the 5 days graduation, those pieces. How many snow days have we used this year?
2.
It seems to me with remote option that is already in place.
We should need snow days.
We shouldn't need snow days.
Well, the current, they're not, you've got to, they go by the old remote snow dates, use them, you use them during the year, then you apply for a waiver at the end of the year, and you can use 2, max 2.
Can you say that?
You've got 3 in this particular,
Yeah, the
correct?
old, so before COVID, like, we can't just decide to use a remote snow day whenever we want. It's my understanding is that at the end of the year, you submit a plan in the summer about how you're gonna do remote snow days. At the end of the year, you have to apply for a waiver for the days. You can only do 2. So we could do potentially 2 of them. If we had a bunch. And we've had 2 this year. That year we went long, we had 6. It was crazy. We had like a couple doubles that got hit 2-day storms. But yeah, so it is doable. You can do for 2. You have to apply, unless they change it, you have to just apply for a waiver. At the end of
Wow.
the year.
To me, it's like late August and early September is the best weather. And June, it rains every day. So to me, I would think, and we did a survey on this in the past, and a lot of people like the starting the day after Labor Day. I guess, to me, we've talked about this ad nauseum, and I really think it should start on Tuesday the 6th. I mean, I don't think that's a shock to anybody in administration or the board that have worked with me to know that I'm an zealous advocate for that, because I feel like, we're in the tourism industry. That 3rd week in August is when the last of the public goes away, and some families want to do something right before Labor Day. All of a sudden the summer's over and boom, they're back in school. So, I mean, I would like to go with the 6th. And if we can get a waiver for everything else, why can't we get a waiver on the 5 days for the kids on the graduation? If that's the only thing holding us up on the other side.
That's statute.
For that.
There wouldn't be a waiver for
It's a
that.
statute.
We tried, a lot of schools tried that year, they won't waive. So a couple of points, just questions from my end, like, so December, if you chop the 22nd, you basically start your break on that Friday with that supported by parents. It shortens that break.
I'm sorry, let me go to Joe.
I mean, people take off anyways. It's not like you control it. It's just,
That's my thing.
to me, yeah.
Just that's my thing though, when I consider these days, like when you look at those 2 days and the 14th, like if we go to school on April 14th, we'll like half the school will be gone. Maybe not half, but
So you're accommodating.
yeah.
Joan and then Johanna.
Okay, I guess my question, when I was teaching in Concord, we started frequently before Labor Day, and we had issues with students that did not come until after Labor Day because they were working. And it actually was quite a number of students, and what would happen was I would start my classes the first day of school, and I would go through all of the procedures of my classroom. And then 3 days later, I would have to do it all over again. And there was a lot of wasting time doing that. And if there's enough kids that are missing the beginning, you're really not utilizing those days well. So it was, we had that issue all the time. We had the Hopkinton Fair, I think it was, and all the kids went to work there. So we would lose about a third at least of our class for 3 days. And I think that's something we need to consider. Are we really educating the kids, or are we all working?
I was just gonna fire back at Seth and say, you know, he wanted to make an accommodation for the 22nd, 23rd, but the same thing could be argued for the days before Labor Day.
I think, well, no, I don't think so. We would lose less kids to work. Like if we allowed kids before Labor Day to miss school to go to work, there would be less kids out of school than on the 14th. I just try to look at bang for buck for educational days. When we come up to April, we get parents like 3 weeks, 2 weeks. It just impacts classes when you have that many kids out. But yeah, I mean, we would have some that would probably stay out and work. I don't know if we did last year. We offered it up. Did we, Georgia? Maybe
We
one
did.
or
We
two.
did. I just asked for, if, you know, employers
Yeah.
to contact me, and I
Yeah.
didn't have anyone contact me at all.
But yeah, it's trying to just weigh it out, you know. There is an argument.
What if we did the,
combined for 2 weeks in the spring, and I think it would help at some point.
Okay, Chris and then Kathy.
well, what if you work Jay's to the 30th and 31st, or the 31st and 1st? And to me, the April 14th, I don't get it. I mean, April 7th is Good Friday. I'd maybe get it if it was that, but you know, April 14th, I know everybody wants to like take off early and all of that, but that's, to me, we've debated this before, and I would rather pull those from the December 1 and from there, and then if we have to stick a day in June, I still think we're going to be okay, because we're not going to use up, you know, to me, you could get creative there. So I really want the kids to start after Labor Day. I think there's a majority of us on the board that support that. So I don't have a problem if you want to table this and we can vote on it on April 1st. So you've got some time to readjust. So you don't have to make any decisions today. I understand that it affects the staff.
I would just like to know why children have to have the 22nd and the 23rd of December off. It's a Christmas vacation, and in this particular year, Christmas Eve is Saturday, and Christmas is Sunday, and then they have the whole following week until the 4th of January off. Why do they have to have the 22nd and 23rd off as well? Why does it have to be a half a week?
Sounds like there are enough questions that I think what I'd like it is adjustment to the motion to table the calendar until next month, which will give us an opportunity to take all of your feedback into consideration, and we'll bring it back to you for a vote. Can I have a motion?
Mary, can I ask a
Yes, Chris.
I would like to take a poll of the board of how many are in favor at this point of starting after Labor Day, just a poll. It's not finalizing any calendar, but I would like to get a poll to see how many are in support of after Labor Day. I know I am. I've heard a couple others.
Okay, so by raising your hand, how many are in favor of starting after Labor Day?
I'm in favor of it, Joanne.
So it looks like a lot of us. So having given that information to us in addition, can I have a motion to amend the motion to table this until next board meeting?
I move that I make a motion that we table this into the April 1st meeting to allow the staff and administration to try to meet the needs of what the board is requesting.
It's not April 1st, it's April 5th.
Sorry, April 5th. Larry Cooper.
Kathy, okay, all those in favor, any more discussion?
I just have a request to the board, if they could, just during these like before the next meeting, is reach out to constituents and just ask about the 23rd of December and the 14th of April. So maybe we'll get some
So they're
more,
getting some data from the community.
yeah, some more feedback from people. I especially think the 23rd of December could be a need for a lot of families. It gives you that breather right before Christmas Eve if they're traveling the family. But just so maybe if you talk to the last about those, that'd be helpful.
Everybody to crack the survey.
Glad to do it. Glad to do it, Seth. No problem.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to consideration of an overnight field trip for the Spanish 3 and 4 and AP art students. And I believe we have someone here to talk to that, and we also have a handout. Trip to Boston.
Yes. So I'm Kate Milberg. I teach Spanish. Sonia Johnson teaches art. And unfortunately, we've traveled many times together before and had the opportunity to take students out of the state, out of the country, just to immerse themselves in different culture than what we see here in Rangeley. So we are proposing an overnight trip to Boston on Sunday, April 3rd to Monday, April 4th. The students are only missing one school day, and there would be 12 students combined. Some are overlapping between Spanish 3 and 4 and AP art. And Sonia and myself would be chaperoning with a male chaperone that would be determined still. But the purpose of going is that there's a Frida Kahlo, who's a Mexican artist. There's an exhibit in Boston, so it kind of ties into both the Spanish and art piece there. And then while we're there, we kind of informally polled the students what they would like to do. They would like to visit the aquarium as well. So that is that's our proposal. And on the
I'm trying to. I'm trying. Sorry. There.
So on the handout, you can see the different places that we'll be going. The exhibit is located at the Lighthouse Art Space at the castle, and the hotel is listed there. The aquarium. We would be traveling on Sunday the 3rd in private vehicles down to the train station in Portland. The students would have the opportunity to take the Downeaster and then obviously transport via metro in Boston. And then return in the afternoon on the 4th. So the cost is roughly it's just under $200 a student. And that funding is actually left over from funds raised from the Costa Rica trip that got canceled in 2020. And I know ART also has some funding in their budget. It's been student activities account as well. So yeah, we're just excited to be able to take kids through an experience that we've taken them on a lot of times before, but it's been halted for the last several years due to COVID. So
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Could I have a motion to approve the field trip? Second. Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Chris had a question about the funding.
My video.
Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I hit the wrong button and shut off the Zoom right when Kate was saying about the funding. Kate, did you say that there is fundraising funding for this, or does each student have to come up with this? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it.
yeah, no problem, Chris. So there's monies left in the funds that were raised for the Costa Rica trip of 2020. So because it's tied into cultural immersion and the Spanish group, we would be looking to use some of that because students weren't able to take those funds raised and take them personally, so they're in the account.
So it covers all the costs.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's no cost for the student, including food?
They would, yeah, that's correct. The food would be included, and the only thing that they would be bringing money for is spending money.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. I just was hoping that it was covered. So.
Any other questions or comments or discussion? Can I come? How many chaperones are you gonna need? What's the ratio gonna be?
So, yeah, so it's 1 to 8 overnight at stay.
1 to 8?
Yeah. So,
And you're gonna follow all of the COVID requirements that are
yeah, so
consistent with.
on the back, or
Yeah, I saw on the back
safety,
about-
we'll mask, obviously, we try to wear masks when needed, and, when we're out and about on the street, we don't need to, but we'll follow everything.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to the meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're now moving into the adoption of the various policies. Kathy, we'll begin with policy IMGB, which is policy addressing therapy dogs in the school. Can I have a motion to adopt that policy and then we'll discuss it? Kathy?
I'm just wondering, can we do three with all the therapy dog policies
Sure.
in one?
So 10, 10, 10, 11, and 10, 12,
Yes, yeah, because they're all, yeah.
they're all together. So we'll address all three of those.
Yeah.
So a motion to address those three policies.
So moved.
Okay, a second? Okay, Kathy, can you?
Well, this was actually thought of by Georgia. These therapy dogs, which I think it's important to understand the difference between a therapy dog and a service dog. We voted on service dogs a couple of months ago. The service dog is a dog that's specific to a need for a child, so a blind person will have a service dog. Seeing eye dogs are service dogs, whereas therapy dogs are dogs that are trained just to be kind of nice. They're very well trained. They're specific to kind of. There's a wonderful ad on TV where this little girl is receiving therapy and she's in the hospital and she's getting intravenous, and the nurse walks in and the nurse says, "I have a surprise for you today." And then in walks this great big Saint Bernard, and the face on this child, I think it had to have been real. The face on this child just lights up because it's meant to create a mood, I guess, so to create a calmness. And that's what therapy dogs do. They're not service dogs. And I think that's important to understand that difference. And it would be nice just to have them come into school once in a while to do that same kind of thing for us, just to lower their anxiety, to make them smile. So, and all three of these, there's what it is, there's the procedure, and then of course there's the form that somebody brings in their control. So that's.
And there's extensive training and licensure.
Oh, yes,
involved
yes,
with this,
yes.
so
That's
they
all-
have to meet all the
that's all
standards.
written, yeah.
Insurance, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or discussions on 1010?
I have a couple of
Erin,
Mary,
yes? Wait just a second.
I have a couple of,
What?
I have a couple of observations, some spelling and grammar things that need some fixing.
Okay, could you send an email to Kathy to that effect?
I have done that, and if it's all right, I've just emailed her earlier today and she can make those changes. So we don't need to go over each of them. There were quite a few.
Thank you, Deb, I appreciate that. Here.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to say, I think it would be a good avenue for us to explore the therapy dogs. My niece had a Newfoundland and she was trained to sit as a reading partner, and it was very successful in the school in Rhode Island that she went to. And I know there's a couple of people in town that have therapy dogs.
And they, one of them, and probably one of the two, as you know, has reached out to me. And my question to her was, how would you envision your dog coming into our building, like what? And that was one of the things that she said, is to just have kids read their one-on-one.
Be a wonderful addition, yeah. I remember your grandson in history. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those.
I had
in
a couple.
favor? Okay, Chris, thank you.
Yeah, so I saw in the insurance, I want to make sure we do follow that protocol very well, that obviously we have to have a certificate in hand, either digitally or in person before they come in. Because that is a liability regardless of the nicest dog in the world. They can get provoked or things can happen. So, and then I saw the provisions in there about the allergic piece. I think that that's really important, being somebody myself who's can be deathly allergic to certain breeds of dogs, that we should make sure we have some kind of a, before this begins or that part, we should at least, I think part of the registration, but at least put that out again to families so that they're aware of it. Because maybe not everybody discloses everything on their forms about allergies. So I think it would be good to say we approve this policy, we are going to be doing therapy dogs. If your child has a specific allergy to a type of dog, please let us know so we can be proactive on addressing those issues. Because I don't think everyone's going to sit there and say, it's probably marked that on the hundreds of school forms questions that they do at the beginning of the year. So I would just advise that we put some additional notice out to cover that.
That is definitely on my radar.
But it looks like a great policy, well thought out. I saw a few grammatical things, but it sounds like Deb's caught them. So I think it goes in a great direction, and it's therapy dogs have done wonders for people. I know that for a fact. So that's it.
We take a vote on this motion. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, moving on then to, we want to handle the next two IJOC-E and IJOC together, Kathy. Having to do with school volunteers. 10, 13, and 14.
Yes. Okay, we can.
So I need a motion to adopt those two
So
policies.
I move that we.
Thank you, Joe. Karen seconds. Okay, Kathy.
Okay, well, these are just revisions that were sent to us by the state, really. For IJOC, they wanted the following paragraph inserted in the interest of protecting the safety of students or staff. The school unit will conduct sex offender registry checks, and they conduct criminal background checks on all volunteers. Will be working directly with, or will have unsupervised access to students. And that we will provide liability insurance, which we already do, don't we? Isn't that what you said? I don't know if you told me that, Seth, or with liability insurance, protection for volunteers.
That would fall into our school insurance.
Yeah.
For volunteers in the building,
Yeah.
you have to follow all your procedures. No volunteers overnight unless they've done a fingerprint check.
Yeah, and they have all these background checks, yeah. But essentially, all you're adding is language. It says if anybody has contact with kids, they have to go through all of the appropriate legal screening to make sure they don't have a record and so forth. Any other questions or discussion on this item, these two items? Okay, all those in favor?
I had a question.
Okay, Chris?
I had my hand up. I thought you saw it. Sorry.
Can't
So
see
in the past, they didn't set it up so you could see. Okay, no problem. So in the past, we've had to make everybody get fingerprinted. Are you saying now with this change, it will only be the ones that are going to be one-on-one with students? So
That's
we're
always-
modifying that.
Chris, that's always been the case. Most of our volunteers that come into the building are not alone with students. They're coming in to help out in classrooms or whatever. And generally, background checks are done on them, but we don't ask for like fingerprinting or any of those kinds of things for those. It would just be if they were an overnight, if they were a chaperone, and or if they were if we knew for sure they were gonna be alone with the student for any point in time, they would need fingerprints.
And is the cost of any of those checks need to be done by paid for by the district, or those paid for by the individual?
Right now, they're paid for by the
They're paid for
individual.
by the individual. Any other questions?
Well, right now it costs like $100 or something like that to do the fingerprinting and all that part. So if you overnight, I just think it's a disadvantage to some parents because that's a good chunk of change. So I've always thought that we should cover that part from the district, except in the case that, you know, obviously it comes back and they can't do it, then the charge is to them. But I just think it prevents some parents possibly from doing it because it's just an expensive process. Unless we have a different way to do it now. Last I knew, it was $100 in the trip to Augusta. Is that still the case?
I'm sorry,
Right,
Kathy, I
right. That's,
can't hear
there's
you.
a difference between a background check and fingerprinting.
Yeah, but
So-
this is an addition to what we already have. This is not taking away what we already have. This is an addition, and it has to do with sex offenders, and it has to do with criminal background checks that we will conduct if they want, if people. want.
I understand that. The part I don't understand, and that's the reason that we're amending this section anyways, is that I've always thought that it's an undue burden on those parents who want to help or chaperone if they've got to shell out $100 to go get fingerprinted to meet the policy. So we don't have to resolve it tonight, but I'd like you guys to take that into consideration.
You want to table this?
'Cause I think it's cost prohibitive for some parents.
It's limited, and I can reach out to.
I'm fine with approving I'm fine with approving what's there, but I'd like the policy group to take a look at it. That's all.
Well, if you approve of what's here, then we're approving of the policy, and that doesn't mean that it gets tabled and goes back to the policy committee. So what I'm hearing. in our
I
discussion
understand.
At the table is that we table it, take it back to the policy committee, and we will, in the interim, check on what other school districts are doing with respect to this particular issue and bring it back to the board next month. Okay, so we'll table it. Okay. Moving on then to controversial issues, 10.15. Kathy, could I have a motion to accept that policy? So moved. Thank you, Karen. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Controversial issues, Kathy.
We're on.
10.15.
10 points. Oh, okay. Revised policy IND teaching about controversial
Yes.
issues. All right. The state just asked us to add this verbiage to part of it, which is critical thinking. It's on page 1, number 3. The study should be objective and scholarly with a minimum emphasis on opinion and maximum emphasis on facts and critical thinking.
So all you're adding is two words.
Just adding
critical
those,
thinking.
yes. That's,
Okay.
and that was suggested by the state.
The state.
By
Okay.
MSM.
Any questions or discussions on that? Adding that word, those two words, critical thinking. Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on. IMBB, which is an exemption from required instruction.
Again, this is just the addition of a few words on page 2. If the accommodation in the curriculum that is requested is so great that the validity of any local assessment program is compromised, the superintendent will determine how to address the situation, subject to the approval of the commissioner. Those are the additional words, subject to the approval of the commissioner. I presume that's the state commissioner of education.
And that was a MSMA revision, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just adding subject to the permission of the commissioner. Right. Any questions or discussion on that item?
So moved.
Okay. Chris, a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay,
Aye.
moving on.
All right, so JGAA is a, we want to rescind that, and I'm gonna ask Seth to explain. Seth, please.
That's me to explain this one. Okay, give me 1 second. We don't need it.
JGAA, it's what you seem to think we don't need this anymore, right?
I don't think it's required.
It's not
I don't remember.
required, and you said it doesn't apply anymore because we have preschool, something like that?
I don't recall having an opinion on this policy. I don't know if it's not required to
You're drawing
rescind
a
it. I
blank
mean,
there, huh?
give me a second, I can
Anyway,
have an opinion.
But I have a motion to rescind this policy and then we'll talk about it. It speaks specifically to assigning kids 5-year-olds to classes. Do I have a
So
motion? Thank you, Karen. A second?
Second.
Okay. And I believe the discussion was to rescind it because it wasn't applicable to what we're currently doing in practice.
Oh, wait, no.
Is that correct, Seth?
I don't think this has to do with preschool, does it?
It's about placing 5-year-olds.
About placing 5-year-olds.
Kindergarten or first grade.
There are cases in all 5-year-old students in first grade instruction.
It's
I think required is just something required. Basically says you can put 5-year-olds in first grade. Discretion of school officials and points following. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't really remember. I mean, if it's not required.
It's not required. I'll table it. Yeah, neither one of us.
If it's not, it just, I mean, you could do this without I mean, if you had a 5-year-old that was like,
Reading
way
Chaucer.
beyond, reading like novels, you could, I mean, without a policy, you could make it. as a principal and
Since there
superintendent.
seems to be so much confusion, let's table this
Yeah.
and come back to it, okay?
Yes.
So moving on then to item number 10.1.8, GCGA, which has to do with substitute teachers and education specialists.
Okay. So,
Do we have a motion for this, please? Yeah. And a second,
Second.
thank you, Johanna. Okay, Georgia. You want to speak to this?
Sure, so I believe we adopted MSMA's full policy on this, right? I think it is more pertinent to what we're doing today. It's actually, I thought it was a well-written policy. The other thing that we looked at and added to our substitute wage scale is a daily rate or a daily and hourly rate for a certified teacher that may want to come in to sub. We are trying to get our pool subs up and we want high quality, subs to come in. We want subs that have, teaching experience. It would, this teacher would not have to be currently certified, but certified at any point in time. So we would like to sort of insert a new category for certified teachers at a rate of $28.57 an hour, which would be $200 a day. I've talked with a couple of teachers who formerly worked for our district that may be interested in coming to sub for us if we could get the rate, a rate that would be sort of
high enough.
How does that impact the long-term substitute and support staff positions?
So the long-term subs are a little different in that when they come to sub for however long, they land on the teacher scale at the 0 level. So they're sort of already paid at that teacher scale. This would be, and I don't know what that, I couldn't tell you what that figure is right now.
I would just think that that would need to be increased relative to this
Yeah.
increase as well.
I believe that that is higher than this.
But if you're increasing this base pay, you may have to look at increasing the fees as well, because they're essentially, they're filling that void, that same void, correct?
Yeah.
So you're putting a little leverage under these daytime subs, of how about these long term?
Yep. Yeah, that is a good suggestion. I don't think there's a huge difference between the two, to be honest with you.
Right, but you're increasing this
Right.
for the certified teacher for the day sub. So if you call them in the morning, you need them. So there should be a relative increase as well in these long-term sub positions as well. Or in my opinion, there should be an increase that's relative to this increase as well.
I'd have to take a look to see what that rate is.
So that they would be compatible, Johanna, or that the long-term sub would be making,
Well, if you're, yes, I mean, so that, yeah, there's a little bit of balance there, but it's also appealing maybe for someone to apply for this long-term sub position as well as the day.
so you'll check into that. Absolutely. So would you like to table this at this point so she could check into that and then we'll bring it back?
Or could we maybe look at that, because we're gonna get in a situation with subs right now. We're in need of subs right now. I'm happy to bring this back with any additions or changes to the pay scale. But could we adopt this as is right now so we could move forward with this? And then
I had a
certainly-
question.
Chris?
The 2857, that's below any teacher we have here working, correct?
Yes.
So I would think that would be uncomfortable if it wasn't.
I didn't hear the last part.
So
of what you said.
I'm not I said, I think that would be uncomfortable if it wasn't. I just wanted to make sure, because that would be an issue for those that are currently working. So I'm okay with going forward with this as it is, and then looking at what Joanna said about the long term. So we do offer after 60 days, I guess we're paying insurance. I guess I just wanted to understand how that worked. Is that 80% on our policy, or is that 80% on their policy? Is it up to what we would pay on our policy? How is that calculated?
Right, they work, once they work both days, insurance would begin.
I believe in this next contract year, step 0 will be at 40. It's $219.78 a day. So a long-term sub would be at $220 a day.
So we'll provide the board.
So are we tying the rate? So the question is, are we tying the rate to the step 0? Is that what we're tying it to?
No.
$20 lower.
Did you hear that, Chris? She said no.
Wouldn't that make more sense? Because then you don't have to come back and modify the policy every year or do whatever, because we're setting a fixed amount. If we say to step 0 of the contract, then we at least got a reference point that will move with inflation, cost of living, all of that. Just something to think about.
Yeah, we have to look at this policy annually anyway for those increases.
Oh, by statute?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so all those in favor of adopting, and we'll come back with additional information. Unanimous?
Aye.
All right. Moving on. AC, non-discriminatory, equal opportunity and affirmative action. Kathy, we have a first, we need a motion.
I'd like to AC,
Kathy, first we need a motion to adopt. the
and
policy.
ACB, yeah, can we do those three together? AC,
Yeah.
ACAB, and AC.
Yes, AC, ACAB, ACABR, okay. So I have a motion for those three, and then we'll turn that over to you, Kathy. Karen, second? Johanna? Kathy?
Okay, so the state has asked us to add to AC and ACAB, as a protected category, the familial status. And so that's just adding to the lists of discrimination against and harassment of school employees because of race, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, ancestry, and familial status. Familial status is the new protected category that we have been asked to add. And in AC, it's in 2 different places. And then in ACAB, it's in it's in 2 places. So just those 2 words. And then in ACAB-R, it's added to the list and then it's defined. Okay, and that's on page 3 of ACAB-R, the definition of familial status.
So all we're adding is that terminology.
We're just adding that
Recommended
terminology.
by MSMA.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
So moved.
Okay. Unanimously passed. Moving on then to 10.22. EH, public participation at board meetings.
Okay, this is again a revision in language added by MSMA and state. And it's the list on. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. It's the list they have, beginning on page 1 to page 2, it goes up to K on the old policy. They asked us to add L. And that is, in the event of an emergency or destruction, the chair may declare a recess to restore order or may declare the meeting adjourned or to be continued to a designated time and place or at the call of the chair. And that's, I think in light of recent board meetings that we've read about throughout the country, where there's been a lot of disruption, that just gives our chair the power to
either declare a recess or adjourn.
Yes.
Okay, so could I have a motion to adopt BEDH, public participation in board meetings? Thank you. Karen and Joan, and any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay, passed unanimously.
Right.
Only 3 to go, guys. We're gonna have a shorter list next time, I promise. Okay, EBCA, Comprehensive Health and Safety Emergency Management Plan.
Again, this is new verbiage that the state MSMA has asked us to add, and it's well, anyway, the new verbiage is to at the request of any board member or full-time school employee, the board shall form a steering committee composed of school employees, board members, parents, and others. The majority of school employees must be chosen by local representatives of the applicable bargaining unit if the school employees are covered by a collective bargaining agreement. The steering committee shall regularly review and refine the comprehensive health and safety plan. So this is just added verbiage to this comprehensive health and safety emergency and management plan that gives us the right to create a steering committee for any, I suppose, any kind of problems.
Could I have a motion to accept that additional language, the cause for annual review?
So moved.
Joe, second? Joanna. Okay. And we currently have a health and safety emergency plan, so this
Yeah.
just adds to
It's
how we
just
review
one
and what the
paragraph.
committee needs to be comprised of. Is that correct? Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Okay, Chris.
I have a question. What constitutes regularly meeting? It's not defined. Is that? I just don't want us to be in some kind of an issue of compliance. Does the statute speak that? Paragraph says that the steering committee shall regularly review and refine a comprehensive safety plan. What constitutes regularly? And if you have to have somebody elected,
It's just saying that a steering
Go ahead.
committee can be made under the course of the board.
So it's if the board requests it, it doesn't necessarily have to have regular scheduled meetings.
well, it says you regularly review. So if there's ever a problem later in life, lawyer's gonna say, did you regularly review this per your policy? And if the answer is, I just think it sets us up for an issue, but that's my only concern about that language. I would just say the steering committee shall review and refine the comprehensive health and safety plan as needed, something to that effect. Then you don't have to worry about whether or not they met regularly.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
Would you like to offer an amendment to the motion to adopt that?
Well, is this language, the only question I have is, was this language provided to us?
This is the language that was provided.
This is MSMA's language.
All right, well, if it's word for word from MSMA, if there's a problem, we'll just add them to the third party defendant. Sounds good. We can leave it as is, if it came from MSMA.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, moving on. Kathy, JK, student discipline.
This is to do with the wording, positive and restorative interventions should be used to the extent feasible in student discipline. That's just added wording that they recommended.
Could I have a motion to accept the added wording to policy JK, student discipline? Joe, second. Karen, any more questions or discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. Down to JLCB, immunization of students, 10.25.
Okay, well, this is a matter of removing language that they say is no longer viable or no longer allowed. And that is, we can no longer have exceptions to immunizations for religious or philosophical reasons.
And is this by law? Is this a recommendation by MSMA?
As far as I know, yes. Oh, yes, it's definitely recommended by them. And as far as I know, it's by law.
Could I have a motion to accept this, this removal of language for KLCB. So moved. Thank you, Joe. Second? Kathy, any comments or questions about that? So it's essentially removing the religious exemption for immunizations come to school.
State law.
Any other questions or concerns? All
This
those in-
is,
all
this
those
is
in-
state law.
yes,
This
right.
is state law, right?
It's state law, yeah, it's, we're not.
Unfortunately, yes.
It's,
Yeah,
it's,
right.
it's
As long as we're
a
clear on
new
that.
language from state law.
I think that there's still a medical exemption. If
There is a
somebody-
medical,
yeah,
there is
so
a
it's
medical
not-
exemption.
That would be, yeah, that's on there as B.
Yeah.
Religious exemptions, it would just mean that the
I-
parent would have to hire a lawyer. You know?
I would encourage that we, whenever we can, we've got the legal reference in there to the statute, but I would say that we have it just in there as, it should be something to the lines of that, would this follow in condition pursuant to whatever the statute is? Because I think this will probably get revisited again in the future year or two.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem. All those in favor? All those in favor? Here? No, you're not voting for it, okay? So all those opposed?
You got something up here.
All right, thank you. Do we have enough for it to pass? We do, okay, thank you. Okay, we're at that point in our agenda where it says adjourn. I'm sure that does not hurt anybody's feelings. I just like to note, it says on the bottom, next meeting is April the 12th. Remember, it's going to be April the 5th, not the 12th. But I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Anyone
Okay,
votes nay.
thank you.
Sorry.